Do you want to experience the thrill of a Packers game at Lambeau Field? If so, be sure to get your game tickets from the longtime trusted source in Wisconsin, Ticket King. Visit their locations in Milwaukee and Green Bay, or just go to their website, theticketking.com. Again, that's theticketking.com.
And now, for fans of the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, this is Cheesehead TV Live.
All right. That's right. It is Cheesehead TV Live-ish. It's live-ish. It's not really. We're not live this week. We are currently recording this show in an effort to work out the bugs that we have had so far. I'm your host, Jeremy Vanderlinden, and across from me is Jason Perrone. Jason, how you doing?
Doing good.
Doing good?
Yeah, how you doing?
How you doing? Doing real good. So we are currently working the kinks out of Cheesehead TV Live, but we will eventually come to you live. At least for now, we can bring you a show because what just happened?
The Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers.
Well, that did happen. We were at the
Brewers
game.
beat the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, that happened too. No, the NFL draft, which was, man, you were so close.
I
so
always
close.
get it wrong.
So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go over the NFL draft and the awesomeness that it was for the Green Bay Packers. I think, Jason, dude, I think it was awesome.
On paper, fantastic. Fantastic draft. Well, I mean, you pick up 11 guys. You kind of got to have a plan or an idea. So let's just hope that Goody does.
I think to go into a draft needing a corner as badly as they did, they needed corners, receivers, and edge rushers, which one of those they did not really get. But to go in with a need at corner and to end up with two of the top corners and somehow bring in a first-round draft pick for next season is pretty damn good.
It is pretty damn good if you're a Packers fan. It's pretty damn bad if you're a New Orleans Saints fan. But this is a Packers show, so we'll just focus on the good.
Yeah, we'll focus on the good. So, first pick, Jair Alexander. How did you feel when the Packers traded back?
Well, this is a loaded question. So here's the deal. You guys that follow me on Cheesehead TV know that we did our draft recap and coverage that night, and we throughout the weekend of the draft, every time a player was picked, we did a bio on him. So I always sign up for the first round, and that was the player that I had to cover. So I was actually free all day on Thursday last week. So I wrote up 6 different bios in advance, thinking all I'll have to do is just copy and paste one of these into the post because one of these players is going to get picked. I had Derwin James written up. I had Josh Jackson written up. I had Chubb written up. I mean, I wrote up all of the big names except for the quarterbacks. And, of course, they moved down to the 27th spot. Now, here's the deal. The first thing they did was they traded down to 27. We know they picked at 18, but when they traded down to 27, I was like, oh, man, like, there's nobody on your board that you like enough to pick in the first round all the way down that far. You just traded down to where you usually pick. We were all excited that they were going to have the 14th pick, and they traded down to 27. So I'll kick it back to you. They're down to 27. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I hated it first, but when it comes out that they got a first-round pick, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. And let me just say this, and not to hurt too many people's feelings out there, but if you're thinking like Ted Thompson had something to do with the trade back, please, okay, understand that I think you're an idiot. And I mean that with the most respect possible that I can give to an idiot, okay? That's stupid. It's so stupid. Yeah. You had Gary Ellerson on 1250 in Milwaukee.
Oh,
just going nuts that Ted Thompson shouldn't even be in the room. Dude, Gary, that is the dumbest thing that I have ever heard you say on radio.
Sometimes Gary gets paid just to get people to call in, though.
To make drama?
Yeah, he and Leroy. I mean, love those two guys. But like I said, I mean, sometimes their MO isn't what we think it is. And the machine behind the station might be asking them to do that. But so they traded 27, and then they get back up into the first round. And obviously, I'm glued to this whole situation because I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to write a profile on, or am I even going to write one? Because last year I had the first round, and I didn't even end up posting anything because Kevin King didn't get drafted till day 2 with the first pick. So they didn't have a first-round pick. So all of a sudden they move up to 18. I'm like, okay, there's a guy that they want at 18. Now, the spot before them, Derwin James goes off the board to the Chargers.
Right.
The LA Chargers. I wanted James on draft night. I wanted Derwin James. That first-round pick that you said vindicated the whole scenario to you still didn't to me.
Not enough.
Because I wanted him. I wanted that impact player, not understanding that there's a pretty good comp between Derwin James and Josh Jones, right?
Yeah.
More or less?
Yeah.
Kind of a similar guy, right? So then when you step back and you take a break and they draft Jair Alexander, who I did not do any studying up on, did not even know much about, and all of a sudden I'm whipping together a post and it ended up going up. But the more I learned about him and the more I watched film, and then you realize, like you said, they got that first-round pick. By the end of the night,
you felt good.
I did feel good about it.
Okay, so we're going to get to specifics about each of the picks. Not necessarily all of them. How much can we say about a punter? But we will go down the list here.
Long snapper.
So I guess let me put it in perspective. I guess at first I was like, I don't love this, but it's cool they got that first round pick next year. So it's not like I was giddy about it. And then when they drafted Jair Alexander, I didn't know a ton about him. I only heard his name a few times. So it's not like I was overjoyed, but like for you, like it grew on me by the end of the night. But when they got Josh Jackson in the second round,
man,
that was like, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm fine.
Done.
This is
100% happy. And that was the resounding sentiment on Twitter by a lot of the draft, guys that I worked with that put together the Cheesehead TV draft guide, which a bang-up job, guys that worked on that this year, and girls. Fantastic job. But that was a huge vindicator for me, too, because Jackson was actually the guy that I picked for the Green Bay to take in the first round in our post that went up that day that said, who are you taking? Both Zach Jacobson and I, and there might have been another guy or two on the roster that said Josh Jackson at 14 because it's corner and he fits the mold. They ended up getting him at 45. Can you say value?
Perfect. It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. Okay, so let's get into Jair Alexander. You did the write-up on him, so I'm going to throw that to you. What do you think? What's there, and what can Packer fans expect?
So I'm not a huge stats and draft guy and watch film and X's and O's type of guy. So I can't sit here and tell you what kind of coverages he's going to excel in. I can tell you what kind of guy he is, and I liked the energy coming from him. He's chatty. He's got a good energy to him. He's got obviously great athletic ability. He's fast. He adds some speed to the field. One of the things I think we were tired of seeing was Packers cornerbacks getting beat.
Yep.
But that's going to happen when you're playing guys like Devon House and Ladarius Gunter and guys like that, and especially if they're going up against the Julio Joneses of the world in the NFC Championship game. So this is a step in the right direction. Add some speed. Add a guy who's kind of underrated. Here's the other thing. Green Bay clearly wanted him. He was their guy, and I trust the scouting department. Brian Gutekunst is the new GM, and he absolutely made that trade. To your point, it was not Ted Thompson. Ted Thompson was in the room, but Ted's playing his role, and he's doing it well. But that scouting department, I trust that they did their due diligence, and maybe they found a gem that a lot of other teams passed on because I wasn't hearing his name at all. So they jump up, they grab him. He's got the speed. He's got the swagger. You watch some film on him. He's not afraid to stick his hand in there. He's not the tallest guy, but he can jump, and he's smart. That's the other thing, too. He's eloquent. He's got football intelligence, and he wants to play football. So that's, to me, those are the first things I want to know. I don't know about you. Some other people might want to know, well, is he a press corner? Is he a man corner? Can he play zone? Can he this, that? I mean, you might have more insight on him than I do in that
I think
sense.
he can play man. What I've heard is that he's similar to Casey Hayward. He's going to be a ball hawk. He's got a lot of speed, like you said. He is small, and I don't love that. I think his vertical was like 36 inches, I guess.
Which isn't off the page.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not. It's somewhere in that range.
It's very good. I definitely can't jump that high, but it's not for a first-round prospect. It's not off the page.
But for a guy who's 5'10", that's the thing. Okay, so he's 5'10", but what do you look to is, that vertical. And so there are some concerns for me just size-wise, but I like his speed, and I like his confidence. He's a big trash talker. So there's a clip that was posted of him doing this rooster walk. Did you see that?
Following the receiver after the play.
It was so awesome.
Amazing. Hilarious. If you haven't seen it, Google or YouTube this. Yeah, Jair Alexander following the receiver after the catch. The receiver kind of turns around and looks like, what's this guy doing? He's
walking like a rooster, man. It's so
funny. Personality definitely not lacking.
One of the things that I think was a theme through this draft is that the Packers drafted communicators. Guys that they did well when they talked to the media. I think that was a focus of theirs. These personalities, not necessarily crazy personalities, but guys that are comfortable in their own skin. That seemed to be a theme, at least with the first 3 picks. And Jamal Moore was pretty good with the media too. So anyways, back to Jair. I think I'm concerned a little bit about the height, but I mean, I think he's a slot guy. Maybe not. Well, right away he's going to be rotating in the slot with Josh Jackson, I think.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Jamaal Williams is 5'11".
Yeah.
Okay. So can Jair, if he excels, and let's say he's balling out and he's having a great training camp and a great preseason, can he play on the outside or not?
They say he can, and Casey Hayward can. And if he compares to Casey Hayward, I mean, if that's a legit comparison, then yeah, I guess he could.
I mean, I just asked that, and I think to myself, like, okay, they're going to play Atlanta, so Julio Jones is there. I mean, can he cover a guy that's 5 inches, 6 inches taller than he is?
It might be a team-by-team basis, too, because if you got Josh Jackson and you got Kevin King, you don't have to put him outside.
If Jackson is serviceable, obviously, he's your outside
I
guy.
honestly think Jackson starts before Jair does.
And you got Tremont and you got House, too, if House stays on the roster after all this is done.
And we're going to get into that, too, because I think there's some with the way the draft landed, I think Devon House is in an interesting position. Okay, let's move on. Josh Jackson, big guy.
Huge coup. What a coup on day 2.
Unbelievable. Loved it. Dude is, what is he, 6'1"?
6 feet or 6'1".
He's
somewhere
right
in between.
around that range.
Somewhere in between, but that's good size.
So he's a big corner. He's got great ball skills. He's not the fastest guy in the field, but the thing I think that he wins with is his vision, like his field vision. He's great in zone. I think he's gonna be awesome, man. There are some questions on whether or not he can play man to man. I think he'll be fine.
I've heard mixed reviews on that. I think any player, you got to give them time to come into the pro game and see how they adjust. So I wouldn't say yes or no at this point.
But in the future, if you can just see like Kevin King, Josh Jackson, and Jair Alexander, like Josh Jackson and Kevin King on the outside Alexander in the slot. That sounds awesome.
And you got HaHa and Josh Jones back there at the safeties.
It sounds like the Packers have really set themselves up well for the future. I like the size of the corners that they've gone with other than Alexander. I wish he was a little taller, but, only
so
time
does
will
Skilo.
tell.
Skilo wishes he was a little bit taller and a baller.
And a baller, yeah. All right, you got anything on Josh Jackson? Anything you want to add there?
He has a chip on his shoulder. We all know about this. This was reported that he's a little chippy like that. You want guys like that on your defense. I talk about dogs on defense all the time. You got Mike Daniels, Kenny Clark. Now you got Jair Alexander, who's chippy. Josh Jackson's going to be a little chippy. I think this is going to create an entire, Mo Wilkerson. This defense is going to have a totally different attitude, and Josh Jackson is going to be a big part of it. He's a guy, I can tell you right now, had he ended up in Minnesota or Detroit or in Chicago, I would not have been happy about that at all. Because the Packers passed him up. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's looking to take it out on someone, and I'm just glad it's not going to be on the Packers.
You know who has an attitude that used to come through their play, like you used to see it through their play? It's Clay Matthews. And I think in this defense, with these guys around him, with the new coaching staff, we might see some more of that this year. There's going to be an attitude in this defense. It's going to be this punch you in the mouth, pissed off defense, and I'm really excited for that on every level. I think they're going to be that way, where there's going to be a guy who's real feisty.
You've got to create an intimidation factor, and you've got to almost make your opponents feel like they're down 7-0 before the opening kickoff even happens.
Right.
And that's what comes through that attitude. If Clay can find that again, I'm still convinced this is probably his last season in a Packers uniform because he's done after this. But if they can get 8 to 10 sacks out of him this year, that is massive, considering the fact that he's probably not going to play 16 games.
I think he can he can have a big impact. I don't think he'll be old Clay Matthews the way he used to be, but I think he's going to have a big impact.
He still will.
And it is about health for both him and Nick Perry. That outside linebacker position is a huge question. I think Vince Beagle could shock us all and be really good, but they have 2 first-round draft picks next year. I think one of those, at least, is going to be an outside linebacker. They have to stock that shelf at some point, right?
The 19 class is supposed to be more stacked at edge rusher, and that's what Gutekunst said, was that the board just didn't fall that way. It wasn't a great edge class,
right?
And those guys just didn't make sense on the board.
Honestly,
you know what's weird though? 11 picks and not one possible mid-round edge guy you didn't want to throw in there. The first edge they take is their very last pick in the 7th round, Kendall Donnerson, who's, congratulations on your practice squad nomination, exactly. Mr. Donnerson.
All right, 3rd pick, Oren Burks out of Vanderbilt. Very athletic. And that was actually a theme throughout the draft, too. They drafted a lot of really athletic guys. That was a big thing for the Packers. They are going for athletes and hoping they transition well into the pro game. Mm-hmm. Oren Burks, very athletic, very smart. You don't play football at Vanderbilt unless you're smart. They don't give you a scholarship to Vanderbilt.
Well, Jay Cutler. Didn't Jay Cutler play at Vanderbilt? So
despite
you just completely disproved your own theory.
Despite the douchey disposition of Jay Cutler, he is a smart guy. So,
is he smart enough to know there's a camera while he's standing on his balcony?
Naked? Yeah. Okay. I'm not entirely sure. That picture is horrifying. I wish it could be deleted off the internet.
You're talking about Packers Hall of Fame quarterback Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler, yeah.
Watch it there.
Oren Burks. I love the Oren Burks pick. How do you feel about it?
I don't know if I love it yet because he was what solidified what the Packers were going for this year, which was the athletic type. They wanted athletes.
Yeah.
And his numbers were off the chart. So if he ends up being what he can be, and if he's really committed to football and he can pick it up at the pro level, I mean, guys like this can get away with letting their athletic ability kind of take over in college.
Yeah.
When you get to the pros, you got to also have some intelligence.
Has to be sound.
But that's the thing. Here's the thing now. So Bob McGinn, love him or hate him, knows a thing or two. And Bob McGinn referred to Oren Burks as sharp as a whip or something to that effect. So to me, that means that he's good. He's sharp. I don't know if you heard him speak. You were mentioning the media interaction. I don't know if he was eloquent, sounded eloquent or not.
He was still another guy who communicated really well.
Good. So there you go. So it's a third round pick, and the third round's been a little iffy. I mean, remember they drafted Kyler Fackrell in the third round 2 years ago.
Ouch.
So and they Richard Rodgers.
Now remember
that was Ted Thompson.
The thing we got to remember is it's Ted Thompson. This could be complete. What if? It turns out Brian Gutekunst sucks at drafting receivers in the second round, which has been a theme, and he actually turns out to be able to pick first round draft picks, which Ted wasn't doing very well. We have no idea what this is going to turn into, but I do know that I like Oren Burks. I like how smart he is, that he's athletic. He is transitioning still learning how to play linebacker because he was a safety. And they moved him to linebacker, and so he's still learning how to play that position. He did play a little bit of outside linebacker. I don't think he's going to do that in the pros, but maybe he goes over there a few times. Maybe that's something they do with him. But he's more of a cover guy. He's got a lot of speed for his size. He's going to be a cover backer. And the two comparisons that I heard, which were not ideal, Joe Thomas, Brendan Chiller. Neither of those got me excited.
No. Chiller gets me more excited than Joe Thomas. Thomas, I think, is done. So I think he takes over that dime linebacker role.
Yep.
Here's the other thing, too. I opined in a piece I did Monday on Cheesehead TV of this week about what this could mean for Jake Ryan. Now, Jake Ryan's going to be on this roster this year. They need that depth at linebacker. But he's in the last year of his deal, and I don't know if he's brought back. If Burks excels, you've got Blake Martinez, you got Burks. They're going to run a 4-3-3-4. I don't necessarily know what this means for Ryan, who's been okay and been a smart guy, but I think Gutekunst is pretty much saying, okay, listen, we're going to go with a different mold of player, and Burks and Jake Ryan are completely different that way. So I think Burks is.
Yeah, I think they're done with Ryan. I mean, it's kind of a bigger linebacker, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think Martinez is more the mold that they want to be their primary, and then for that nickel guy.
He tore it up in 2017. Blake Martinez did.
Yes.
So he's clearly the other inside guy.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to rotate Josh Jones in the middle there to get Kentrell Bryce at the other safety position, it's going to get crowded pretty quickly there in the middle.
All right, so Jamon Moore is the next pick. Receiver out of Missouri, 6'3", tall guy, fast. Had a couple issue with drops, but improved that as the season went along. I love the wide receiver picks. I'm a fan of all three of them. Jamon Moore, I think, is the second best of the group that they picked, but I am excited to see Jamon Moore. How did you feel about that?
See, I agree with you on that. He's the second best. The drop thing scares me a little bit, but I think that can happen with kids coming in out of college. They have to get their concentration straight. He's also a chippy player. I like that he plays with this little bit of swagger. He had some self-control problems. He got into it a little bit in some bigger games when he was in his last season. So those are the things that are going to draw flags. You don't want to see that coming out of a rookie. But what I've been calling for the longest time, ever since Calvin Johnson, Dez Bryant, Julio Jones came into the NFL, even when Terrell Owens was and Randy Moss, like, it is the age of the tall, fast wide receiver. And all Ted Thompson wanted to draft were these 5'11" scat guys. And I'm like, when are we going to join the rest of civilization and get the big, fast guy? So this is a departure, and immediately based on his size and his athletic ability, I love it.
Yep. I think, we'll see which one of these three guys develops. I love that they went tall on all three of them. 6'3" is the shortest of the three guys, and I love that. So we'll talk a little bit more receiver because there are three of them. Cole Madison, raw tackle, but he's going to move into guard. I don't think he plays this year. We don't see him this year. The kid out of Washington.
Unless there's an injury.
Or Washington State.
Unless there's an injury. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. He may crack the lineup. I mean, Justin McCray, to me, if you're not going to bring Jari Evans back, which I don't think they will.
No.
Justin McCray can get the job done. I thought he did a good job last year, and I'm assuming that Kyle Murphy's your right tackle.
Yeah, okay? I think Kyle Murphy's the right tackle of the future.
Yeah. So then, Madison maybe plays that backup role, but I think they're going to want to get him some reps and some time. And if there's an injury, he's going to get forced into action. But I could see a Lane Taylor type situation where he's maybe sits for a year like you're saying, but then next year surprises the heck out of everybody, takes hold of that right guard spot, and we're set for the next decade.
But again, his press conference, great communicator. Yeah. Seemed like a really interesting personality, and I'm telling you, I think that was a theme.
And if you want to communicate with him, you're going to have to do it verbally because he doesn't believe in social media and he doesn't have a Twitter account.
That's right. He does not have a Twitter account. So Cole Madison is, I think, a name to look out for in the future. And, they with saying Bryan Bulaga is going to be back this year too, like they don't necessarily need him. And you have an opinion on this. He said Bulaga will be back. What is your opinion on that?
Well, they asked him to take a pay cut, and he said he wouldn't take a pay cut. So, do you think the Packers want him back? That's my question.
Well, you said to me yesterday, we're at the baseball game talking Packers because, of course, we're going to talk Packers.
Right.
And you said to me, are you going to let him dictate how you do things? Because you needed him to take a pay cut, and he said no. I think then you have to move on, right? Like if you want to say like, all right, well, I'm the GM here. And I need you to take a pay cut, like we need to do something, then maybe you do need to cut bait.
You can't afford to keep Bulaga on this roster if he's not going to be ready until midseason. If Kyle Murphy's healthy and he's ready to come back, and Cole Madison doesn't suck during preseason and training camp,
he might be gone.
Bryan Bulaga is cut, and if someone else wants to take a chance on him, fine. Otherwise, maybe you look at bringing him back for some depth later in the season.
Because what is Gutekunst going to say? Yeah, we're not going to bring him. I mean, he's here right now, but we're going to cut him. He's going to say we're going to bring him back so that later, if they need him, he can if Madison sucks, somebody else is injured in camp, Bulaga is coming back eventually.
He's Brett Good. We'll sign him if we need him.
Right.
But here's the thing. Okay, so this is a similar scenario to when it leaks out that Team X is trying to trade player X. Well, okay, if I know that you're trying to trade that player, I think I'm just going to wait till you release him.
Right, because eventually...
And that's it, because when you say I'm asking him to take a pay cut, he's not taking a pay cut, Brian Gutekunst loses a lot of credibility if he just lets Bulaga play out this year at that salary.
Right.
So let's read the writing on the wall.
This is okay, so to be clear, Bryan Bulaga is on the roster. You know that, I know that. So he's on the roster, but you're saying cut him and let him be that. Like, he's injured right now. Cut him.
Cut him loose.
And let him be that Brett Good guy later in the season.
If he's still someone else wants to take a chance on him, that's fine. But at this point, 8 years later, I don't know how much he's got left. And if Kyle Murphy can get it done, I'd rather infuse some youth into that and some athleticism into that offensive line.
All right, so back to the draft. J.K. Scott. The Packers drafted a punter, which I don't know. I mean, I was up in the air on it, but if you're improving a position, great. Fantastic, but you have no trade value in a punter. They're not gonna. It's not like they have two punters on the roster. They're gonna cut one at the end of camp. So, do you feel like it's a wasted draft pick?
Okay, so this is not a question in a vacuum. This question is scenario based to me. You picked 11 players. How many picks did they come into the day with?
I don't remember what they had the day of the third. I think it was 8 picks on.
How about total? Like how many?
14 total picks when it all started.
14 picks. Okay, so if you've got that many draft picks and you're clearly not enamored with Justin Vogel, And special teams is important, and you need to be able to flip the field. Okay? You can do something like this. This is not conventional. It's not always wise. You know, those of you who follow Steve the Homer True on Twitter will have heard him tweet and say it was a terrible pick. Even if you would have taken Sitchy in the 5th round and he plays one snap ever in his NFL career, by definition, that was the better pick. That is completely false. That's
because a punter can change the game.
That is perfect example of a wrong opinion. I'm borrowing a term from Marcus Eversole, my former colleague at allgbp.com. So I'm okay with the Scott pick because he is, by stats and by tape and by his performance, the best punter in the nation. And if he hits, which he should, unless he's injured or something weird happens, he should solve your punting problems for a long time.
Right.
You've got a big long punter, and he had. How long did that kick go?
I think it was a 75-yard punt. 75 freaking yards. Can you believe that? Like, okay, a punter can flip the field. It can make a real difference. And if Jack Sitchy plays one play in his entire career compared to flipping the field for a punt, like that's to devalue punters that far is a little too stupid to me. So here's the thing. If this guy wasn't available, if J.K. Scott's not available, they're happy with Vogel. I don't think that they care about.
Yeah. I think
Vogel
because
was great.
Wasn't Vogel almost like a Pro Bowl alternate as a punter?
I think he broke some kind of record
He
for the
wasn't
Packers
bad.
this year. He had a good season. So here's the thing: if J.K. Scott's not available, they're not making that draft pick, or they're not picking a punter. They're not even. I don't even know if they're signing a punter because I think they're satisfied with Vogel. I think that they think this is so much of an upgrade that what the heck? Let's toss one of these.
Well, he's a
late
kickoff
picks at him.
specialist too, so he's two-faceted.
Okay, great. So as Crosby's getting older, maybe you want to start saving his leg more. You don't want to have him doing kickoffs.
Oh, yeah.
You can.
I thought you were going to say put Scott in there and kick some field goals.
No.
Let Scott handle the longer, the 50 pluses, and let Crosby handle everything else.
I mean, if that were possible, that'd be great. But it is too. We don't need it. Kicker stuff's so stupid. Let's not talk about that. Okay, let's move on to the next receiver on the list, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, great name. Fantastic.
It's the age of the hyphenated last name. We're just going to have to get used to it. I think we can go from this point forward. We can go with MVS, or you can say it out loud if you want to say it out loud.
All right. Well, we'll see. It's not as fun to say as Equanimeous, but
no.
Marquez
No
Valdes-Scantling.
No teasers, no spoilers.
You're right. So 6'3", another speed guy, another guy Jamon Moore and Scantling are both raw guys, I think, at the position because they struggle with catching the ball deep downfield. And when you're a speed guy, hey, you're probably going to have to catch the ball deep downfield. Like, you're going to have to figure that out. So I think a lot of people are slotting this guy in to be a gunner immediately. He's the Jeff Janis replacement of the future, like special teams guy. That's what he's going to be.
That's his comp. Okay, so remember last year the Packers drafted 3 running backs. Now this was under Ted Thompson. This year's booty. You had Jamaal Williams in the 4th round.
Yep.
Aaron Jones in 5, and then Devontae Mays was a 7th rounder. I think it was a 7th rounder.
7.
Okay, and everybody was all about Jamaal Williams and Devontae Mays, and Aaron Jones was just kind of hanging out.
Nobody was thinking about him.
Nobody was thinking about it. And I said to myself last year, you watch, Aaron Jones is going to end up being the guy who emerges out of all 3 of these just because no one is talking about him. And so here's Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and nobody is talking about him because everybody is so enamored with Equanimeous.
Equanimeous
and
St.
his
Brown
dad,
and his dad
and his cheetah and his pet cheetah and his cheetah stretching and all that. And then you've got Jamon Moore, who was obviously taken in the 4th round, and so because he was taken earlier, he's going to have more draft stock put in him, and there's going to be more talk about him. But I really want to see what Valdes-Scantling can do as a receiver. I mean, did you watch any tape on him as an actual receiver?
No.
As a gunner and his speed, it's done. He's there. He's doing it.
Great.
And he'll be good at it.
Right.
But I want to know, don't be surprised if training camp opens and this kid's catching everything.
All right.
I just have a weird hunch.
Feeling. Okay, but don't be surprised if he catches everything and everybody thinks that he's awesome, but the Packers cut him.
He's Josh Hawkins in the preseason with 3 interceptions. And,
So I think that these 3 receivers are going to be fun to watch in camp simply because they're going to walk in and they'll be like, holy crap, look at those 3 trees that just walked in the room. Like, it's ridiculous. So let's move on to the next one. Equanimeous St. Brown. Fantastic name to say.
Ring the bell. Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
We can call him EQ St. Brown, whatever you want. I I might say Equanimeous every time because it's so fun to say.
It is.
6'5". Awesome. Love the height. Love the height of all three of these
6'5" and speed.
6'5", speed, and he's actually a very gifted athlete. So, depending on who you talk to, this guy should not have gone that late in the draft. He should not have been in the 6th round. I think that it has something to do with daddy.
Are you sure? Was that verified? Has that been said by anybody?
Nobody
with
has
a blue
said
check
that.
mark on
You
Twitter?
know what? What I'd like to see is that, anonymous NFC scout come out and say, this is the deal.
The anonymous scout didn't make an appearance this year, did he?
No, not yet. He'll come eventually. Somebody will get some quote from an anonymous scout. So for anybody out there who doesn't know, St. Brown's dad is compared to LeVar Ball. And if you don't know who
inaccurately compared.
If you don't know who LeVar Ball is, well, first of all, you need to come out from
You're
under
very
a rock.
fortunate. You're very lucky in life.
Let's just say it's a guy whose son plays in the NBA, and he's trying to pull some douchey shenanigans to get his other sons on the Lakers by saying, well, if you don't draft my other kids, then Lonzo's going to sit and he's not going to play.
Charging $500 a pair
for a pair of shoes
sneakers
that nobody's like, well, I made my own brand of sneakers. They're obviously $500. If you can't afford them, you're not a big baller. That's he's such an idiot. So the St. Brown family, which is the parents aren't even St. Browns, they're the Browns. But the dad decided to change their name. He felt like, we're not going to live under this name given by a slaver. We're going to let's add something to this. And also, he felt like St. Brown would look good on the back of a jersey.
And this is part of the story. This is a true story. So
right.
Let's put the sensitivity.
Right. Understand. He said so. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't want to take it from me, if you have HBO, you can go on
look
HBO.
at it. Yeah, go watch it. It's verified.
And look it up. So there's a segment with the St. Browns. It's like 17 minutes long. Very fascinating. So this guy was a bodybuilder. What's it called? Mr. Universe. He won Mr. Universe twice and Mr. World 3 times. So serious bodybuilder. And he decides when he wants to have kids, he's talking about like when he picked his wife that he picked her based on her genes for breeding. Mm-hmm. Like literally talking about breeding babies to be athletes. And so he has his 3 kids and he asked them what they wanted to do, and they all said they wanted to play football. So he said, all right, then we're going to do that, and we're going to do it really hard. Like, we're going to go at that. We're going to make it happen. The thing that I think is different between him and LeVar Ball.
So many things.
LeVar Ball is in it for money. Like, I really believe it's just like money, 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 money. That's it. I believe John Brown when he says, they said they wanted to do football, play football, and we went hard at it. If they said they wanted to be doctors, that's what we would have done.
He trains. Here's the deal. LeVar Ball just gets in front of a microphone and talks, and then he goes and gets a Slurpee. This guy is in the weight room with his kids, getting them pumped. He's got entire, training regimens. He doesn't want Equanimeous stretching because he says cheetahs don't stretch and neither do we. So
it's weird.
Some of these things can get a little bit annoying. Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Remember, Belichick supposedly started getting tired of Brady and Gronk and all these guys want to have their own trainer. Yeah. This kind of has that same ilk, kind of that same air of like.
But is that the direction the NFL's just kind of gonna go?
Probably, because everything is getting so specialized. These kids are manufactured now.
He's not going to work with the Packers trainers. He's going to work with his dad. That's what's going to happen. And I think the Packers have to understand that when they're bringing him in to know.
And maybe they will now with Goody at GM versus Thompson, and maybe the culture's going to change a little bit.
Because I don't think Thompson makes that pick. I think Equanimeous St. Brown is the best of the 3 wide receivers they got.
Simply because he was mocked to the Packers every flipping where, and Ted Thompson's like, no, I've got a different guy I'm gonna draft. Yeah, that's my Ted Thompson voice right there. He's got a different guy he wants to pick. Gosh, so that was a combination of Brett Favre and I don't know. I don't know who else. That was my Ted Thompson voice.
That's perfect. Okay, so look out for St. Brown. I think he's going to be the guy. Don't be shocked if he gets a meaningful playing time this year.
I will say this. If you're right, unfortunately, it's not going to be this year. If you're right, I think it's going to take 2 or 3 years. It's going to take a few years of him around Devontae, around Cobb, around Tremont, Daniels, that leadership. He's going to have to understand, listen, you have a choice. You can be a diva, and you can try to be a solo artist in a game where you're one of 11 guys on the field.
Yeah.
Or you can buy into this thing, get a part of the team concept, catch passes from Aaron Rodgers, get on SportsCenter a lot, still get famous, and have a little bit of hardware to add to your finger. Right? I mean, is that?
I think you might be right. However, my argument against that would be that with Bob McGinn, there was a scout that that talked to him again about him and his dad and this weird stuff and said he is not disrespectful. So he said he wouldn't play special teams in college. Okay, I don't think that's going to happen in the pros.
That's not an option. He's going to have to, if you're going to keep him on the roster, because he's what number is he on the depth chart?
Dude,
5.
Yeah.
So you're playing special teams, or you're not.
Like you're not going to make the roster.
Right.
Right. So I think that was a money play. Like you don't play special teams in college because you're not risking your career to play special teams in college. You'll play special teams in the pro because you're going to get paid money to play special teams in the pros. I bet that's the direction they go. I think that's probably more along the lines of what his dad's thinking. Protect your career, because college football doesn't pay you anything. If you get hurt on a special teams play, which all those special teams players are like really high risk plays, you damage your future. Don't do that. We're not doing that. And I think that's where that's at. So I think he plays special teams without question. I think he works out with his dad. He probably still doesn't stretch before games because cheetahs don't. But you know what? You know what else cheetahs don't do? They don't cook their food. They don't poop on the toilet. They don't live in a house. There's so many things cheetahs don't do that we don't do. You know, like we're not gonna live that way. So I don't
think anybody hasn't trained a cheetah to poop on the toilet?
I mean, maybe.
Not one time.
I had a cat. And I trained him to poop on the toilet. I have video. This is real.
So this is like was this Jinxie from Meet the Fockers? He's got the no opposable thumbs so that he can flush the toilet?
No, he didn't. He couldn't flush the toilet. But there was one time he didn't like pooping on the toilet. He got scared, so he'd get off and poop on the floor. Right. But he did pee on the toilet.
When cats get scared, that's the best moment of being a cat owner, if you've ever had one, is when they get scared and how quickly they move away from the source of fear.
Or attack everything in front of them, which happened once.
Right.
Anyways, okay, cats suck and pets suck. Okay,
moving on.
I'm anti-pets. Anyways, so I think it's a great pick. St. Brown's awesome. I'm excited to see more. I think the value is sky high where they picked him.
Totally.
Fantastic.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a guy that could have gone in the second round. You picked him up in the 6th. The end.
Exactly. All right, next pick, James Looney. I don't think either of us really care too much about James Looney, just because he's too short to be a 5 technique. He's too heavy to be an outside linebacker. He's 280. He's 6'2 and a half, so he's too short to be a 5 tech. He's 280, so he's technically a little too light to be a 5 tech as well. He's too heavy to play outside linebacker. He's too small to play inside in a 3-4.
He is your classic tweener.
He's not a scheme fit at all.
No.
So unless you're trying to go multiple and play some 4-3 once in a while, this pick doesn't make any sense to me.
But it's the 7th round, and that's the type of thing you do in the 7th round. You
take a shot.
You throw a dart at the dartboard and hope it sticks.
Well,
he comes from a program. He comes from Cal. He played against some decent competition in college. Let's see what he's got.
Well, hey, maybe they say, all right, let's bring him in, see what he's got in camp. See if we can get some pass rush moves out of him, because I don't know if he has any. Try to get him to lose 20 pounds over the next 2 years and put him at outside linebacker.
And he's Daytone.
And
he's Daytone.
Well,
and
no, because Clay
again?
Plays at 260.
But he's Daytone because he's a defensive lineman converted to an outside linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, well, he's more like Nick Perry. I mean, he's that Nick Perry, Daytone Jones, like between. It's such a risk to pick an outside linebacker that way and say, like, you play defensive end, but we're going to teach you a whole new thing when you get to the
conversion of a 7th rounder. I don't love it.
So I don't get the pick. I don't think we see much from this guy, and he won't even be on the practice squad. I don't even think he's a practice squad guy. I could be wrong. I don't see it. All right, Hunter Bradley, long snapper. I don't hate the punter pick, and I don't hate the long snapper pick, because if the punter's a huge upgrade, fantastic. If the long snapper works out, great, because when your long snapper's bad, you know it, because it's really bad. Last year sucked when Brett Good was hurt. So if you can correct that problem through the draft, don't risk this guy being an undrafted free agent.
Because if he is an undrafted free agent, he's going to have his choice of how many teams and where is he going to end up going to play? Somewhere warm. Right. Just so secure his services.
Right.
Because what happens with players in Green Bay? They don't love the idea at first. They come, they play a year.
They
love
the culture.
To warm up.
Right.
They start to soften up. By the 3rd or 4th year, they want to re-sign. They don't want to play anywhere else. So,
all right, last pick, Kendall Donnerson. I'd literally put here.
Finally, an outside linebacker.
I literally put will do nothing. That's all I got. I think he will be on the practice squad. He's a potential guy for the future. He's a 7th round pick.
Well, okay.
He's just that's it.
Here's the deal. If Reggie Gilbert, who they're gonna, we have not talked about in this because we've been talking about the draft picks. If Reggie Gilbert is an undrafted free agent, can become a guy, I'll give Donnerson a chance as a 7th rounder. I mean, he was drafted.
It's not going to be this year.
No, it'll be 2 or 3 years from now.
He'll do nothing this year.
But
he will probably be more active in preseason next year, and then the 3rd year you could probably start looking at him as
he's a project. He's on the practice squad this year, 100%.
It's going to be a while. All right, so right after the draft here, guys at risk of losing their jobs. There's 2 of them on the roster that I think are high risk of already being out the door. Devon House, they might not need him. The only reason they would need House is for depth if these 2 rookies come in and they're not ready yet.
And it depends on how many corners they're going to keep. But yes, House is definitely he's an X factor.
Well, because Jackson fits the same, they're the same body type. Jackson's got a much higher upside, but he's built like Devon House. So Devon's not going to be needed if both these guys come in ready to play. You don't need to keep Devon House.
Well, let me ask you a question. How many corners do you think they're going to keep?
5 or 6.
Okay, if they keep 6, Devon House is staying because he'd be the 6th guy.
Right.
Because you got, let's do the math. You got Kevin King, Jair Alexander, Tramon Williams, okay?
Josh
Jackson.
Lindsey
Pipkins would be 5.
And if they pick 6, it would be House.
Devon House would be your 6th guy.
Right, so he's on the fence, but he's the last guy. If he makes the roster, he's number 6. Unless somebody gets hurt or whatever.
But the thing is, though, is Devon House is a pure corner. He's not going to be a starter, and he doesn't contribute on special teams.
The reason you put Pipkins on the roster over him, at least at this point, we don't really know what it's going to look like, is that the upside is way higher. Devon House's career is ending.
And Pipkins plays special teams.
Plays special teams. So you're not gonna keep House over Pipkins. That's a definite no. So then
can we agree that Dimitri Goodson released? Did he get cut already?
Not yet. I think he's
still
on the roster.
Can we agree that we're done?
He's probably done.
Okay, we're done with the basketball players?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Over. That's over. You know what? Jimmy Graham played basketball and was good at football. And Antonio Gates too.
No, actually, you know what? That just reminded me, Jeremy. We forgot Quinten Rollins.
Oh yeah, he's on
So Quinten Rollins, if they keep Rollins and he comes back, which honestly, I'd rather have Devon House than Quinten Rollins.
And I would rather transition Quinten Rollins to safety.
Or okay, if you want to do that, that's fine because they need that depth back there, right?
I would prefer they put him at safety
because they didn't draft any. Yeah, you know I think they might have to. It would have been nice if they could have transitioned. Now I know he was a head case and he was an attitude problem. If they could have transitioned Damarious Randall back there,
he will do nothing for the Browns.
I don't think so. I think he's actually going to have a good season. I think he's going to be good.
Here's the thing: if the things that were happening in Green Bay continue to happen with the Browns, nobody in the locker room will like him. He will struggle there and fail in 2 years.
Okay. What was the game we're going to put? I'm going to fast forward the game to right now. And let's add a component to it. Okay. We were going to talk about
the buy or sell.
Buy or sell. Okay. Are you buying or selling what the Browns? I'm totally hijacking this entire show. By the way, everybody, this was not in the script. I'm putting Jeremy on the spot, but I'll answer that. Are you buying or selling what the Browns have done?
Buying.
Okay.
I love their draft. I've saw
Baker Mayfield.
I like Baker Mayfield
with the Brett Favre homage.
I like the Baker Mayfield swagger, and I don't get people that are like dogging on. Okay, so he got arrested once, right? But like a lot of teenagers do dumb stuff, and once in a while, dumb stuff can happen to a teenager. But what he doesn't have is a history of like drug use and heavy partying, like Johnny Manziel did. He's not Johnny Manziel. This is like comparing John Brown.
Just ask Josh Allen in his Twitter account.
This is like
doing dumb things.
Gosh. This is like comparing John Brown to LeVar Ball. It's Johnny Manziel is LeVar Ball. Mayfield is John Brown.
Yep.
He's different. I think Mayfield's very serious about football, and I think he's going to be very good. I think he's going to win a lot of games. I don't like the Ward pick for them. But
Ward, well, okay.
Not when Chubb's sitting there.
No, but Peter Bukowski did say that if they pick Ward at 4, he's actually not overdrafted at 4 because of the potential that he adds, the athletic ability. Like, he was the best pure defensive back in this entire draft by stats and numbers alone. So that justifies him at 4, but that doesn't mean he was the best pick. You could be right.
So we are right at the game. So we are just going to ask. Well, we'll talk a little. Since we're talking Browns, let's talk a little Raiders.
I'm sold. Listen, here's the deal. I'm sold on what the Browns are doing, but a 0-16 team. I don't know if they break 500. 8 wins is their ceiling this year, I think.
Let's talk Ted Thompson, Ron Wolf proteges. So let's talk a little Seahawks, little Raiders. We just talked some Browns. Seahawks. What the hell are you doing? They needed a corner so bad. Their defense is in shambles, and they draft a running back out of San Diego State. Like, even if he's good, that's great. Good, he's good.
Do you remember?
But I don't get it.
Do you remember when Ted stepped down and they were talking about potential names to replace him? And who did everybody want?
John Schneider.
And this draft pretty much makes all Packers fans pretty glad. That
I'm really glad. You know what? So I didn't want John Schneider at first, and then I wanted him when it looked like it was going to be. What's his name?
We share a brain. We share a
brain.
Like
at first I was like, I don't want this. I don't want this to happen. And then it was going to be.
And I do want it to happen.
What's the guy's name that was going to be the GM? Everybody was freaking out about.
Russ Ball.
Russ Ball. I'm already like forgetting his name. So when it was going to be Russ Ball, I'm like, yeah, well, God, John Schneider. Yeah, that sounds awesome. But now and then to get to the Raiders, because this is perfect. Reggie McKenzie turns down interviewing for this job, and now. Okay, so first of all, Seahawks, I'm like, okay, I'm glad John Schneider didn't happen.
Sell on the Seahawks, 100%.
Sell on the Seahawks, the Raiders. So he says no to interviewing for this Packers job. Buy or sell, he does regret or will regret not interviewing for this Packers position.
Buy. B-U-Y, buy. I don't care what the price is, I'm paying it.
Yeah, because so Scott Hansen from NFL Network tweets out that the way their draft worked, McKenzie had his board. McKenzie and his staff, they had their board. And John Gruden and their staff had their board. And they had to come to an agreement together in the moment of picking their pick. That sounds like the most broken garbage. I am so glad that the Packers don't have that going on. Anybody who was concerned about the Mark Murphy power shift, look at the Raiders. Just look at the Raiders and feel much better about everything.
Didn't you kind of know, though, as soon as they hired Gruden, that things were going to go sideways?
Yes, because, okay, another buy or sell question I have. John Gruden's not going to work. Buy or sell?
Sell.
You're selling that? I'm saying he's not going to work. So the question is...
I'll buy, and then it's not working, yeah.
He's not going to work. Here's the thing. The money's too high, the years are too long, and he wants it to be 1998 so badly, it just... He's not going to work for the Raiders. It's going to be a huge fail. Reggie McKenzie will be out of there in 2 years, and John Gruden will be handed the reins, and they will go back to being a terrible football team. That is a hot mess, and if I'm Reggie McKenzie, I am pissed because you turned down being the GM of the Green Bay Packers, where I guarantee you he wishes that he could have ended up at some point. He felt like his situation was good. Turns out it's not good, but too little too late.
Okay, did I ask you this yesterday when we were talking at the game? Do you think they kind of did a bait and switch?
Like they didn't tell him this is the way it's going to be?
They didn't tell him the situation.
Oh, I think
it
so.
It reeks of that.
I don't think he turns down.
Reggie's a smart guy.
I don't think he turns down an interview with the Packers if this is what they're telling him is going to happen.
Right.
I think they tricked him. And I think, Mark Davis is an idiot. Like Al Davis at the end of his life was terrible at drafting, but smart guy, like genius throughout his life. Mark Davis didn't get any of that from his dad.
Well, just look at the haircut. I mean, he's making bad decisions.
Baby Huey is a moron.
Yeah.
So he's just it's bad. So the whole Raiders situation is bad. A team that should be good and be able to win in the next 2 years, is going to train wreck so hard because John Gruden's not going to work out well. There's going to be a power struggle in the front office. McKenzie will be gone in the next 2 years, and Gruden's going to be handed the reins, and I think he's going to drive it to the ground.
Did Derek Carr already sign his big deal? He did.
I think he did, yeah.
So he's locked in for a bit.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, that could really blow the franchise up. If he's like a year or two away from signing his deal and they blow it, just like the Bucks are going to blow it with Giannis. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Okay, Bucks fans, any Bucks fans who are listening, can we please just enjoy the fact that Giannis is in Milwaukee? Just shut up about him possibly leaving.
No,
you have 3 more years of Giannis. Enjoy it.
It would be so un-Milwaukee-like to not think 8 years ahead and
everybody's too busy.
7 missed opportunities later.
Everybody's too busy digging their freaking fallout shelter to care about the fact that it's beautiful out here. Like, the weather's fine and everything's great and everyone's getting along, but Milwaukee is currently digging a fallout shelter for when the end of the world comes. Enjoy what you got because it's awesome. So, okay, this is a Packers show. Last thought here. This will be the last thought, and we're going to move on. Buy or sell, the Packers vastly improved their defense this offseason.
I'm buying it. I'm buying it. There's too many things that are looking good and going and kind of trending in the right direction. And at the top of it all is Pettine and his defense. And
Right.
Until I see any proof that it's not going to be better, I'm gonna believe that it will be.
So I think they have. I think there are still holes. I think that every roster has holes on it. Every GM has to make the choice, where are we going to be weak and how can we improve that in the future? And right now it's outside linebacker. But you got 2 first-round picks next year. They have the ammo to fix it. And you know what? Gary Ellison's flipping out on the radio because he's like, the Saints, they're not going to be bad next year. This first-round pick's going to be like 27 next year, so who cares? You know what? The Packers weren't going to be bad last year, and they ended up with the 14th pick because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Crap happens. If they end up with 2 first-round draft picks, or they have 2 first-round draft picks, they can package those and move up. They can do anything they need to do with that, okay?
But here's the thing. Is the outside linebacker the linchpin to a Mike Pettine defense?
No, because, the
So then does
interior
it
of that
really-
line's going to create a lot of havoc.
So we're so conditioned over 9 years that you've got to have an outside linebacker because we run a 3-4. That
Right.
Do we know enough about Mike Pettine's defense
No.
to really understand how impactful and how bad it might be that they didn't draft an outside linebacker?
We really don't know. I think it's just
Exactly.
everybody's freaking out.
Exactly.
Packers fans do the same thing Bucs fans do, but not as bad because the Packers win. But there's a lot of doom and gloom in Wisconsin sports. A lot of doom and gloom. Okay, every team has its holes. Right now it's outside linebacker for the Packers, but I think they vastly improved their defense this year just by adding Mike Pettine. Because changing the scheme was needed. Communication sucked. There was a lot of breakdown last year that had nothing to do with talent. It had to do with the scheme.
You just watch it. The attitude of this defense is going to equate for a lot more than just changing the scheme and adding talent. I'm telling you right now, it's a culture, it's an attitude, and this defense has a much better one than they did when they walked off the field in Week 17 last year.
All right, and on that, we will end the show. It's a good show. It's a good draft. It's coming, man. We're moving towards it. Sooner than later, training camp will be starting, and we'll be talking real football.
That we will. In the meantime, check out Cheesehead TV for all of your Packers news, coverage, and bits. We'll be back at some point when we have something fun to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's football related or not.
Yeah, or not.
Thank you for listening to Cheesehead TV Live. Check out cheeseheadtv.com for more great Packers content.